My name is Malini Mehra, and I'm a GCF ambassador, and I work with Globe International, which is an international network of parliamentarians. And we've been working with the Global Challenges Foundation for the past year and a half, trying to promote awareness of improved management of catastrophic risks by parliaments around the world. So my background is very varied. I've worked on sustainable development issues and climate change and human rights within many different institutional settings. So in government, in business, in civil society, and also within the United Nations. So I was very pleased to be invited to act as an ambassador for the Global Challenges Foundation's New Shape Prize because I've been working on risk issues for quite some time. And here was an opportunity to learn about innovative responses from a variety of different sectors to something that needs critical solutions, critical new models that I can benefit from in my own work. So it was a learning opportunity for me, as well as an opportunity to connect and outreach to new constituencies.
So what are the risks issues that you've been working with that is relevant to the New Shape Prize?
So the risks that the New Shape Prize and the work in general of GCF covers a multitude of existential risks, and these range from nuclear war to climate change, pandemics, engineered pandemics, and natural catastrophes and other risks. Of those many varied risks, the ones that I've been working on most closely have been to do with climate change, how climate change as a civilizational threat can be managed more effectively through government intervention, through policy, but also by businesses, cities, and civil society actors working more effectively together. So, the practical reality of working on these issues is that largely our institutions are not very well educated about the threats posed by issues such as climate change. So to start with, there's a learning curve for most institutions and individuals who work within them. And that's common to governments with civil servants and also to businesses, and most certainly further down the chain, if you're working in local authorities, because these are not challenges that people work on an everyday level. So there is awareness to be raised and policies and strategies and measures to be considered, which can be addressed by that particular institution. So that's the start of it. And then secondly, there is a big challenge around working with others, working with other sectors. So working with, the scientific community, or academia, or business, or civil society, how one can make partnerships with those other actors productive and sustained. So it really presents a whole new way of addressing problems and resolving problems, which are very complex and many of them very long-term. So, I've been using that word multilateral for so long, it seems to be part of my natural vocabulary. But I know for most people, terms like multilateral are part of a jargon, language that they are not familiar with. It means very simply governments working cooperatively across borders. And we have multilateral institutions. The most familiar one to people will be the United Nations and its various different programs and organs. And the UN bodies have many different agreements where they bring governments together as the primary actors to address particular problems, a range of issues. But over time, we've seen that multilateralism, which has been dominated by the nation states, is becoming more interesting because now those solutions are being sought in partnership with others, with businesses, with civil society organizations, with the scientific community, with faith groups. So it's become a place which is much more inclusive and open to citizens engaging with. Multilateralism is taking shape in very interesting ways. So to give you two examples, if you go back to the late 1980s, when it became apparent that we had a severe crisis with a hole in the ozone layer, the world's governments came together, along with the world's businesses and civil society and science community, and very rapidly reached an agreement, which was called the Montreal Protocol in 1989, to address ozone-depleting substances. And industry had the technology, and governments came up with mechanisms, with a new regime, whereby countries could phase out those harmful substances to the ozone layer. And it worked. So we are now looking forward to a future by mid-century that those particles will no longer be in the ozone layer and the ozone hole would have been closed up. So if we fast forward a couple of decades and we look at what's happening within the climate change field, so climate change, we've already concluded this historic agreement, the Paris Agreement, in December 2015, which was unique in that it applied to all countries. So there were 195 parties that committed to the agreement, but it also got the commitment of a range of actors, including cities, regions, businesses, investors communities, civil society. So now, if you look at how the Paris Agreement is being implemented, it's not just governments, but it's more than 12,500 commitments made by those, another jargon, non-state actors.
What does accountability mean to you?
So accountability is very fundamental to what we're doing, because basically what it's asking is, show me that you have done what you said that you would be doing, right? So in the context that we're working in, accountability is demanded of governments, of companies, and we need mechanisms in place whereby they can prove that they have done what they signed up to do.
So who are accountable to manage global risks?
Because we live in an international system which is made up of nation states, most accountability mechanisms are at the national level. So we can hold governments to account through our parliaments, we can hold business to account through shareholders and through the court system, but we do have a tough time at the international level because we have fewer mechanisms to holding governments to account for international commitments that they have made. And that is why in the work through the Global Challenges Foundation, accountability features so strongly, because it is an area still under development. You know, the current shape of global governance is very messy and chaotic. That's not the shape that we want or need at this very turbulent time in human history. So the New Shape Prize comes at a very historical time in what will be a reshaping of global governance. So I don't think there's one shape that will emerge out of it. There will be many shapes. And I hope that they will be more fit for purpose, fit to address the complex interconnected problems that our societies face right now. I think we need a new shape for global governance for the simple reason that the international governance system that we have now is a vestige of a model that was developed 70 years ago in the post-war period. And some aspects of that governance, those governance structures, have served us very well. We still have institutions such as the United Nations and its many different bodies, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, etc. But we have new challenges which are posed by new actors, so multinational companies, for example, which cannot always be controlled by national governments. And we have new non-state actors which are causing conflicts and crises. ISIS is just one example of new source of global conflict, which is trans-border, which is transnational. So we need new governance systems to be able to manage these risks. And so we are certainly evolving towards a new form of managing our global commons, which is not apparent to anyone as yet, but which is clearly in process. So there are thousands of people who are currently thinking about, so what governance models are we going to propose that's going to have a shot at winning this prize? And my message to them would be, think bold, think out of the box, but also think practically. because we don't just need blue skies thinking. We need models that have a chance of succeeding, that can fit into the world that we have right now, not just into a world that we want, but they themselves have to be fit for purpose for addressing the challenges which we have to address. So I got to know about the Global Challenges Foundation actually through their work to promote climate security in the context of raising awareness about global catastrophic risks. And I'd attended a conference in London that had been organized by the GCF and became very intrigued by this as a concept that I wasn't hugely familiar with, so clearly needed to educate myself and the constituency that I was working with. And from that developed a beautiful friendship. And I'm here now as an ambassador.
Great, great.